Hello, everyone. This is Rebecca Green for the Whining Palooza podcast. I am so excited today because I get to talk to the absolutely wonderful Dr. Funke Afolabi-Brown. How did I do?
You did awesome. Yep.
She is magical. She's a triple board certified sleep medicine physician, speaker, coach, best-selling author of Beyond Tired. She has nearly 2 decades of experience. Dr. Brown helps children, parents, and organizations understand how sleep impacts every part of our physical, emotional, and mental health. As both a physician and a mom who has personally struggled with sleep challenges, she brings medical expertise and real life understanding to families looking for lasting solutions. I needed you 19 years ago.
Well, I'm here now. Let's just put it that way.
Got you now. I'm going to use you now. But you are all so lucky to get this expert on sleep because I have so many questions. I think that parents feel like sleep struggles are just something they have to survive with. Do you find that parents just think they need to deal with it?
Absolutely. That's a very common misconception. It's like I've just been dealt a bad hand of a child who's a poor sleeper.
Mm.
And some people, some parents internalize it as I'm probably just this kind of parent who can get it together to train or teach my kids how to sleep. So it's not just the fact that they've been told to just deal with it. It's now been internalized to them, making it a reflection of their parenting. So it's sad.
It is. It's so sad. I've heard so many things about sleep over the years. And I want to touch on the fact that in your own motherhood journey, sleep issues became personal for you. Can you talk to us about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when I started my medical training, right? The rigor and the intensity of studying for the boards, of staying up, burning the candle on both ends. So I started off sleep deprived. And so then when my child came, my firstborn, my son, he struggled with sleep. He had like reflux. He was just like the
Mm.
colicky baby. And there was just so much in that. And I was also healing and recovering. And I mean, unlike now where we actually have books and resources on sleep, I was just told to just kind of tough it out. This is what it is. And so it was just such a struggle, impacted my mental health, impacted my overall quality of life, my well-being. And I was just not the version of myself that I wanted to be. And so navigating that and then starting to now create healthy boundaries, helping him to self-soothe, treating underlying issues. Like if you have reflux and you're spitting up nonstop, no wonder you have acid burning your airway, you will wake up. So actually listening and listening to myself, listening to him, learning how to self-soothe, improving his own sleep changed my own life as well, because then I finally could get my life back. I wasn't
Oh my
up
gosh.
every hour, right?
Oh, and it made me crazy. I mean,
Mm.
so anxiety, ADHD, meltdowns, behavior issues. How do we know if that's not the root of the problem, that it's really sleep?
Exactly. It's so tightly connected. A child who's not well slept is a child who has behavioral issues, who has anxiety, who's impulsive, who's exhausted, irritable all the time, has many tantrums and meltdowns. They coexist more or less,
Mm.
which is why one of the things that I ask when I see patients is how is the I mean, of course, how is their sleep? And that's something that we really focus on. And then once their sleep starts to get better, they have better emotional capacity, better emotion regulation. It all trickles down.
Okay, so how do parents know that what's screaming at them is that it's a sleep issue?
Very good question. So, first of all, you want to look at quantity. So, I think
Mm.
that's important. And the way sleep works is at different stages of life, the amount of sleep that's recommended varies. So, a newborn will spend, anywhere from 14 to 17 hours of their day sleeping. A school age child may spend maybe 9 to 11 hours, a preschooler about 12 to 14 hours, and then your teenager will be about 8 to 10 hours. So to start, if they're not getting the right quantity, that's something that we want to say, okay, this 2-year-old is only sleeping 7 hours. Well, that's not enough. So
Mm.
um, that's just something you want to pay attention to, the quantity. The second thing you want to pay attention to is the quality of sleep. How are they when they wake up in the morning? Do they wake up irritable? Do they wake up like bags under their eyes? Are they waking up multiple times in the middle of the night? Those kind of things show you that something is off with the quality of their sleep. Something is either not letting them get into those deep restorative stages of sleep. And that's really what's contributing to maybe the daytime issues. And then another thing that I want people to also pay attention to is during the day, are they hitting a wall? Do you notice like they're nodding off, especially for those who are older? Are they falling asleep on car rides or falling asleep in school? Or things of that nature will start to clue you in that maybe you didn't get enough good sleep, and that's why you're having this daytime issues. Now, apart from that, one final thing is there a medical sleep issue going on? So cases like obstructive sleep apnea, which is when you have pauses in breathing during sleep, is actually quite common in children. And many times we hear kids snoring and we just assume, oh, it's normal. No, it's not. It's not normal. So if your child is snoring, your child has super restless sleep, your child is kicking all night long, all of those are clues that there might be something going on that's kind of interrupting or fragmenting their sleep.
So if a parent is saying, okay, my kid definitely has a sleep issue, I feel like I've tried everything. That's what I tend to hear.
Mm.
So where do they start? Where do they start in improving this?
I would start off, with the basics. So I think it's so important. Start off with the basics, maybe give a couple of weeks of, okay, we're going to try to work on maybe some consistent bedtime routines. We're going to work on, making sure we're aiming towards an adequate number of hours of sleep based on their age. We're going to work on, shutting off the devices 30 minutes to an hour before bed. Then we're going to work on them being in a cool bedroom, a nice and dark room, no electronics, no additional lights and things like that. We're going to make sure they're eating healthy, wholesome foods and getting physically active during the day. So that's the foundation. I think of it like dental hygiene. You're going to floss real good. You're going to take care of that, right? If you've done that for a couple of weeks where you feel like, I think we're doing a fairly good job to the best of my ability as a parent, that's when you want to lean into your child's doctor and say, hey, we need to have a conversation about their sleep. And then during that time, you're monitoring, where am I seeing issues? Oh my goodness, they have a hard time. They're waking up in the middle of the night and they're exploring the whole house, or they're having night terrors, or they're snoring. And so can we have a conversation? And so from there, that is where your doctor there's some things your child's doctor can do as a primary care doctor. And then there's some things they may need to have you see a sleep doctor for. If the child is snoring, if we feel like your child needs a sleep study, those kind of situations, by then you probably need to ask them to refer you to see a sleep doctor, a specialist.
That makes so much sense. And my friend just told me she did it at home. I thought you had to go somewhere. I didn't know they were doing them at home.
Well, for children, we still have them do it in the lab,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately. There's
Okay.
still some research going on, really pushing for it to be done at home, between in the comfort of their own home. For adults, yes, in fact, that's really the first line. It's done at home, and you can get the results within a very short time. For kids, we still have a lot of catching up to do with the research, as we do with so many other things.
It's so true. Well, and I love that you said no screens, 30 minutes. Did you say 30 minutes before bed? I'm trying.
I would say, yeah, usually I would, for the teenagers, I'll say 30 minutes because, we don't want to rip the carpet fully from under them. For our younger kids, I would say an hour. The reason why is the blue light from the devices actually activates your brain by suppressing the production of a hormone. There's a hormone of darkness or sleep hormone called melatonin. So when your brain perceives light, it doesn't know whether it's light at night or light during the day. It just thinks, oh my goodness, it's still daytime. And that might contribute to why they have a hard time falling asleep. So you want to avoid that and then look into more of the non-screen based activities as healthier alternatives. I think that's a big piece for a lot of our growing children.
Well, and I think that parents don't know what to do for the bedtime routine. Can you give
Hmm.
them a better alternative of what would lead to better sleep?
Oh, I love that. And I think this is really one of my philosophies when it comes to helping with parent coaching around sleep, because they're like, well, I'm taking away this device which literally serves as my babysitter while I clear the kitchen before I put them in bed.
Yep.
So what else am I supposed to fill that time with? And I think that's just a beautiful question. So the way I create that bedtime, the way I talk about bedtime routine, one thing I want you to understand is the bedtime routine, there's no perfect bedtime routine. The perfect bedtime routine is the one that works for your family and aligns with your values and your goals. But at minimum, there are a few things that should be incorporated in the bedtime routine. The first thing is you want to keep it short, not long and convoluted. So usually we'll say anywhere from about 20 to 45 minutes, depending on if they're taking a bath. The second thing is you want to move it in the direction of the bedroom. So whatever it is you're doing, you're making it such that their brain starts to get the signals like, oh, we're winding down. We've put away our games, our toys. We've cleared the kitchen. We're making our way upstairs, right? And then you want to make it things that nurture them. And based on that, I usually use this form where I talk about things that nurture their body, things that nurture their minds, and then things that nurture their emotional connection in that sense. So let's go over that. So what nurtures their body? A warm, nice shower or bath is very nurturing for a child's body. If you have younger kids or even older kids and they want like a gentle massage while you're doing that and use some lavender lotion, something of that sort that just kind of makes them feel really good. If they want to do some stretches, you can do, there's some kid yoga, kid meditation, not videos, more audios that you can listen to just to help them calm down. And then the second piece is around their mind. So you still want to, because our kids will learn every single step, every waking moment. So make that routine part of learning. So what does that mean? They might read a book or you read a book to them. They might sing a song or you sing a song alongside them, right? So that is helping them. You can tell them to, tell me what favorite thing happened today to you at school. What did you like about school today? Where they're sharing those experiences, which is helping them anchor really healthy memories, right? So that's nurturing for their mind. Some kids will want to listen to, a sleep story or things like that. So you can still incorporate that. Again, find what works for your family. And then
Mm.
the last I would say is that emotional connection. So that will look like a cuddle, a hug. It might look like saying a prayer together, giving them kisses. So you want to end on that beautiful note. And then you want to at best walk out of the door, say good night, because sleep is done independently. And then get them to go to sleep. And then you'll see them in the morning. So that's really, so then you can now look at your schedule, your personal life, and say, what are things I could do to nurture my child's body, to nurture their mind, to make sure they're well grounded emotionally and spiritually, and then create that routine based on that.
I love all of that. That is beautiful. That's a fabulous routine. I am going to tell my teenagers what you just said about the blue light because trust
Yes.
me, this is a fight in my house. So I love when I hear that parents just take them and take them away from the kids and put them like in the
Yeah.
kitchen or somewhere out of
Yeah.
the bedroom. I love when I hear that. I need to get on
Yeah.
that bandwagon.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's great. I think the best way to do it, and this is something I always talk about as well, is you gotta kind of also demonstrate it. It's
Mm,
very hard for them to follow if
it's
they leave
true.
their devices and they're like, well, we're seeing you walk into the bedroom with your devices. So like
That's true.
even if
That's true.
even if just for the act of it, like you also want to start to shut those devices down, whether it's your laptop or your iPad or whatever, so they can see that and they can see that role modeling.
Yes, I love that advice. That is so true. So you said sleep is independent. Okay. So let's
Yes.
back up to the younger kids,
Yeah.
and maybe they're getting up every couple hours.
Mm,
Maybe they're climbing into your bed. Can we give
mm.
can we give people some help with their little ones?
So common, very common in that stage of life. Again, one thing I always want families to know is you're not doing anything wrong. This is, imagine if I could crawl into bed with my mom at this age, I would. Why not? Right? So
Yep, I
you're that
agree.
you're that safe space. You are that safe space, and they find that solace in being with you. So that's one thing to understand. But that being said, when they are now waking up multiple times at night, when they have a hard time self-soothing, it affects their own sleep. It affects your sleep. It affects their relationships. It affects the daytime. So that's really why we want to focus on that. Now, when it comes to getting your child to sleep independently, one of the questions I want you to ask is, where is the problem? Is the problem at bedtime? Are they falling asleep okay? And then they're waking up multiple times at night. Or are they having a hard time falling asleep and they have a hard time staying asleep? Because those two things, the strategy you would use will differ based on that. So, for instance, if I have a child who needs a parent in bed with them, they need to be held, they need to be rocked, they need to be stroked, they need multiple bottles at bedtime. That's where we start. There's really no point trying to fix the middle of the night behavior because everybody's tired and everybody's in survival mode then. So we work on that beginning of the night. And so teaching your child how to sleep independently, and that will vary depending on where you're at. Some parents are laying in bed next to their child, and we say, okay, let's gradually get you out of the room. So maybe we have you sit on a chair and then move that chair gradually outside. Maybe we do you pull the plug and do the cry it out, where you just literally get out of the door and say goodnight and see them in the morning, which tends to be very challenging for many families. So you can now create a protocol that really, again, this is back to what aligns with your values, what aligns with your parenting and all of that. But the goal is to teach them to learn that they are safe in their bed, to learn that and that's why the routine involves so much nurturing, that their cup is full, you've given them your undivided attention, and then that they can sleep on their own and you will see them in the morning. And so that really becomes how you get to that. Now, if you have a child who, on the other hand, is maybe waking up multiple times, sometimes they might be waking up multiple times because they need you to fall asleep. And so whatever a child needs to fall asleep is what they're going to need to continue to maintain sleep. So we go back to the beginning of the night and say, okay, how can we teach your child at the beginning of the night to self-soothe enough to fall asleep on their own? Once they learn to do that, usually within a couple of weeks, the middle of the night wake ups are resolved.
That makes so much sense. I told you I needed you 19 years ago. I'm learning so much. You know, my 19-year-old, I mean, we're way past this. When he was little,
Yeah.
I would wake up to him next to me in bed. And
Oh, there
I
we go.
I didn't even know that he came in bed.
That's a sneaky one.
So, okay, so let's talk about co-sleeping. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts? I know a lot of parents are really for it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So here is where I always want parents to make the best decision for them, for their family dynamics. What we do know is what's been shown by research, what's been put out and recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is recommending against co-sleeping for children within that first year of life because of the risk of, asphyxiation and things like that. Because of my background in pediatrics, I also have a background in pediatric pulmonology. In my 2 decades of experience, I've had 2 cases of that. And you just need to be anywhere remotely involved with one to know that this is not a risk worth taking, especially when our kids are very young. At that time, the parents are exhausted. So you sometimes get into much deeper sleep where you're least easy to arouse, but your child is not able to save themselves. Sometimes they don't have enough of a head control. If, for instance, their face or their nose is embedded under you or something, it can make for a catastrophe. But there's now so many opportunities where you can have a side, like a sleeper, where they can stay in your room, be within arm's reach. So even though you're tired, you can sit up, feed them, and put them right back safely in their own sleep space where they are alone on their backs in, again, a crib or bassinet. That's really what we recommend. I know there's the cultural differences. There are people that have done it for decades and things like that, but still we have to stay where the science is. That's just what I'm going to recommend. Now, as they get older, I have families who they have a king size bed and all 5 members of the family are like, you do you, that's fine. But at that point, the kids can't save themselves. They can't get rolled over, So I think that's just something to bear in mind.
Yeah, that's really good advice. We definitely want to be safe. I think safety
Yes.
first, right? You
Yeah.
touched on something earlier that I want to go back to, and you mentioned eating healthy and food.
Mm.
How is the food during the day and at night impacting the sleep?
Oh, yes, that's awesome. So we usually talk about this, that restful sleep is not something that you do just at bedtime when you go to bed. Restful sleep starts from the moment you wake up. The activities, the things you're putting in your body, the interactions you're making socially. When it comes to food, there are certain foods that we know tend to be a bit more activating and can impact the quality of sleep that we have. So, of course, processed foods like knowing that a lot of the foods that have a ton of preservatives tend to impact sleep, indirectly. We also know that foods that contain things like, caffeine, whether it's chocolate, sometimes hot cocoa that your child is having actually has some level of caffeine in it. So just be
Mm,
careful. Some
yeah.
families have a little bit of iced tea, and it seems so benign, but iced tea also has caffeine. So some of those things can impact your child's sleep. If they are not getting wholesome green foods, they may be missing some of the micronutrients that can impact sleep, like zinc or magnesium or the vitamin B's and B complex and things like that. So all those things you can absolutely get from a healthy, robust diet. If they're not outside enough, they might not be getting enough vitamin D, and a low vitamin D can also affect sleep quality. If they're only taking milk and they're eating a lot of the chicken fingers and not really eating as many green vegetables, they might get low in things like iron. And if you have low iron, sometimes that can affect your sleep quality as well. So food plays a very, very critical role in how sleep is formed.
Well, and I know a lot of kids after dinner are reaching for a sugary treat,
Yep,
ice cream
exactly.
or whatever. So then do you
Yeah.
find if they do that, that is also impacting the sleep?
Oh, yes. Sugary food treats, absolutely. And I think having a little, I am actually for a little bedtime snack, depending on what's happening in your family. Some families have dinner by 5. If the child is not going to bed at 8, they're going to stall bedtime because they'll tell you they're hungry, right? So
Yeah.
having a little bedtime snack, being proactive about that is fantastic. Now, what do you include in that? You want to include food that contains proteins, maybe couple of apple slices and some peanut butter, or maybe some slices of lunch meat or something of that sort. So something for them to have that will help them feel a little bit full, but not heavy, not dense, not processed, not sugary, and will curb us just from a handful of blueberries or strawberries. That serves as a great snack. So I usually will say, especially if you have a child that either wakes up multiple times in the middle of the night, or a child that keeps delaying bedtime, just including that bedtime snack as the start of their bedtime routine before making their way up is very helpful.
Yes, because every single child I've ever met is going to tell us they're hungry at bedtime.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. So I want to talk about consistency because I know for me, even it's really hard based on our schedule. So families are out, families are busier than ever. And I'm going to guess that you're going to tell us that we need a consistent bedtime at night and a consistent wake up in the morning. Am I correct?
You are absolutely, that's one of my that's when we talk about
Oh
creating
no.
healthy sleep habits. Yep, it is. Because our bodies rely on this internal clock. It's called the circadian rhythm. It's a 24-hour clock that controls or regulates so many other functions. Our hormones, it controls when the melatonin production starts, and even our digestive system, all of that. So when you anchor that circadian rhythm on a consistent sleep time and wake up time, you're really doing so much good for yourself. And so it doesn't have to be, we're not puristic about it, but we want to just have, relatively predictable times when you go to bed where your brain is anticipating sleep is going to happen, and a very relatively predictable wake up time when your brain is anticipating that you will wake up. And I would say, even on the weekends, I think this is really where it becomes a pitfall, where people now sleep in. They wake up at 6 a.m. during the week and then they sleep in till 12 noon on the weekend. You're just creating so much of a mismatch of your circadian rhythm. We actually call that social jet lag, when it feels like you've traveled across multiple time zones, but you didn't even get the pleasure of being in a new country. You just feel crappy, right? So really important that you really want to regulate, and especially for children, that predictability, just like the predictability of their routine, the predictability of their bedtime and wake up time really does them a lot of good.
Oh, so you're telling me to wake up at 6 a.m. on the weekend?
I want, on the weekends, I could let you cheat a little bit. Maybe we'll do 7.
Thank you for a little more
You're
time.
very welcome.
6 a.m. comes so quickly, let me tell you.
Yes, 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 yes.
Oh my goodness. So I'm sure that you see very common mistakes that good intentioned parents are making. Can you
Mm.
tell us some of the top mistakes we're making with the whole sleep routine, sleep wellness with our kids?
I would say the one of the most common is thinking they will outgrow whatever sleep struggles they're having. That's a big one, because they're suffering, you're suffering, it's impacting everybody's day, it's impacting relationships. And I think that's a big, big one. Uh, I would say another one is many parents think that, well, if I have a child who is waking up in the middle of the night or waking up super early in the morning, they can just go, I'm just going to make them go to bed later so that they can stay in bed later. It actually doesn't work, because what happens is your child now becomes overtired, and an overtired child will have worse sleep. So
Yeah.
sometimes even moving their bedtime earlier is better. And then the third thing would be the hidden sources of caffeine and other things that can fragment sleep. So again, the chocolate milk is great, but just be aware, especially if you don't have it, if your child has no sleep issues, then that's perfectly fine. But if they do, like, I would try to eliminate all sources of caffeine as best as possible. Iced tea, again, is so common with dinner, that I mean, there was a research study that showed like about 25% of children between age 2 to 5 years old, it's an older study now, consumes caffeinated beverages. So even though many times we're like, oh yeah, water, water, but there's still quite a number of people out there that are like, oh yeah, it's just a little iced tea, and things like that. And that contains caffeine, which can disrupt their sleep. So those are just, I would say, one of the common three that I see.
Well, and I love that you brought up hot cocoa earlier because I'm going to be honest with you, I never thought of that. And
Mm.
there's so many times in the winter that my kids are like, "Can we have
Yes.
some hot cocoa?"
Yes.
Oops.
Yeah. And it's okay, actually, if they don't have, I'm really talking about that child who's a bit more sensitive, because the way we metabolize caffeine, where so everybody's different. With hot cocoa, the amount of caffeine is little. And also, if you think about it, many times people have hot cocoa or hot milk just as a part of their routine. So I don't want you to not have that beautiful routine, because sometimes that routine also cues your brain
It's
for
true.
sleep. Yeah, but if you have that child who is wound up all the time, just like going all 4 cylinders at 8 p.m., we're literally going to have to be like detectives, where we're trying to eliminate anything else that can be contributing to the difficulties they're having.
Makes so much sense. I'm just looking over here at this best-selling book, Beyond Tired. Can you tell us about this awesome book?
Yes, absolutely. That was just really my own gift to the world, my own little way of making an impact. So it's a book that's really focused. It's called Beyond Tired, a sleep physician's guide to solving your child's sleep problems for good. And I wrote it because I was seeing in my practice a lot of families that were getting horrendous information from online, from social media, from Facebook groups, from Reddit, and when they came in, they had built a lot of sort of negative experiences, negative associations based on what they had heard. So I wanted to put the basic foundational, these are the soups to bolts things you need to know about your child's sleep, how a child's sleep works, how it works when they're newborns to when they go school age, to when they go to, to when they become teenagers, how you as a parent can respond to different stages of development of your child's sleep, how to look out for sleep troubles, how do I know whether this is a problem, a sleep disorder or not, what to even ask for if you're talking to your child's doctor, because sometimes you go to the child's doctor and you're like, I don't know what to do, but this child's sleep is broken, and you don't even know how to put words in what you're experiencing at home. I'm also very passionate about children with ADHD and autism. So we also have a whole chapter that's really dedicated to talking about sleep in children with neurodiverse conditions. So I refer to it as the manual you should have been given on your way out of the hospital with your baby.
They need to give us a few manuals on the way out of the hospital.
Exactly.
Here's your baby. Good luck.
Exactly. Figure it out. Yes.
Well, thank you for writing that. That sounds like the perfect guide for every family. I mean, if you could change one thing about how families think about sleep, what would it be?
I would say see it as you and your child's superpower, and not just this thing that you do at the end of the day because everywhere's closed. I always compare seeing sleep as this multi-specialty center that you get to visit every night for, if you're an adult, maybe for 8 hours, your child, maybe for 11 hours every night, where your brain is getting restored, your immune system is getting regulated, you're seeing a therapist, you're seeing a kidney doctor, a blood pressure doctor, a heart doctor, like all of it is happening because healing happens, growth is happening when your child is sleeping. So when we understand that literally this is a superpower, it kind of changes our relationship and our dynamic with how we navigate sleep issues with our kids, where we're not just like waiting for them to outgrow it. We're really saying, what do I need to do to help my child sleep better starting tonight?
Well, and I've always valued sleep, and I've always been curious about people who are like, it's no big deal. I just need a few hours. And I'm like, what? I need a lot of sleep, people. I'm glad that you said that. Hopefully, people can value sleep a little bit more from our conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So is there anything that you feel like I didn't ask you that you would like to share?
No, I mean, this is something that I always tell parents, because I work with a lot of parents, a lot of moms, that you also have to prioritize yourself. You have to take care of you, and you have to also protect your rest. I think it's okay. It's not selfish, and you're doing the best you can. So yeah, and I'm so thankful that you had me on. This has been such a fun conversation.
Well, I knew I was going to love talking to you. You are just a fabulous lady. You have so much wisdom to share with us, and I so appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you.
This is Rebecca Green, and I want to remind everyone to spend every day laughing, learning, and loving. Thank you for tuning in to the Whiny Palooza podcast. If you like what you heard, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. While you are there, leave a review. I love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.